Have you ever wondered why you always feel tired, even though no one is harming you? No one is forcing you? Why? While everything outside seems normal, your inner self is as tangled as a skein of thread. It's because people nowadays think too much. They think about the past that's gone, the future that hasn't arrived, the words others say, and the matters of winning or losing. The more you think, the more restless your heart becomes. The more you worry, the more tired your mind gets. Then we don't realize that our own mind is the source of all suffering. The Buddha once taught that the mind is the root. If the mind is at peace, then all things are at peace. When the mind is agitated, the body cannot be at rest either. When the mind is filled with delusions, life becomes heavy. The ancients had a saying, "If the mind is without peace, even clear water turns murky." Some people lie awake all night, unable to sleep, just thinking about what someone said yesterday. Others sigh all day, worrying about their children's future, their wealth, or their fame and fortune. The more they think, the more vexation arises. The more they try to grasp, the more restless they become. The Buddha taught that the human mind is inherently as pure as a calm lake, but because of the winds of greed, hatred, and delusion blowing across it, the surface of that lake becomes turbulent. When the water is murky, we cannot see the reflection of the moon. When the mind is agitated, we cannot see our own pure nature. People suffer not because of lack, but because they constantly dwell on unreal things. They think someone is hurting them. They think life is unfair. They think they can only be happy if they acquire this or that. Yet, these things are merely shadows of delusion. The more a person thinks, the more karma they create for themselves. Karma originates from the mind. If the mind thinks good, then body and speech will follow good actions. If the mind thinks evil, body and speech will immediately create evil karma. This is how a vicious cycle perpetuates, leading from worry to suffering. And from suffering, more worry arises. The Buddha once said, "The mind leads all phenomena. The mind is primary. The mind creates." If we don't understand this, we will forever chase after delusions and never attain peace. Those who practice the Dharma must first learn to observe their own minds. When a thought arises, view it like a cloud passing across the sky. Do not cling to it. Do not chase it away. For if we try to stop it, the more we try, the stronger it becomes. Only when we quietly let go will the cloud naturally dissipate. Similarly, when the heart no longer wishes to control everything, happiness truly finds a place to sprout. Someone once asked the Buddha how to escape vexation. The Buddha replied, "Do not arise, do not cease." That is nirvana. This means not letting the mind chase after the past, nor letting it get entangled in the future. Dwell peacefully in the present, in your breath, in each step, in every small task you are doing. When the mind is at peace, the world is also at peace. When the mind awakens, life also brightens. Nowadays, everyone desires a happy life. But happiness does not come from external things. Rather, it comes from knowing how to stop within, how to listen to your own mind, and how to let go of what is unnecessary. Sometimes a single act of letting go can dissolve 10 years of suffering. For as the Buddha taught, when the mind is at peace, all things are at peace. Today, let us delve into the teachings of the world-honored one to understand why overthinking causes us suffering, to learn how to let go of what is not worth thinking about, and to learn how to live serenely amidst impermanent life. This path is not far away. It lies right within each breath, each moment we return to ourselves. When the mind stops thinking, life will naturally be joyful. And that is the true happiness the Buddha wanted to show us. Perhaps in life, each of us has experienced sleepless nights, tossing and turning as thoughts wander from one thing to another. Some worry about work, others about their children. Some fear losing money, others fear displeasing someone. It seems our entire lives are spent in this cycle of thinking. Thinking about the past, thinking about the future, thinking about things we cannot change. These very thoughts cause us suffering, making our minds feel heavy as if a rock is pressing on our chests. The Buddha taught that the mind roams everywhere. Only those who know how to stop will find the path. Yet, we have never known how to stop. We keep chasing after delusions, constantly imagining we are worrying about others. But in reality, we are only creating suffering for ourselves. In Buddhist teachings, every thought that arises is a seed. If that seed is virtuous, we sow blessings. If that seed is evil, we sow karma. Each time we give rise to anger, worry, or fear, we are pouring more restless energy into ourselves. Thus, karma doesn't originate from anywhere far away. It arises from the continuous stream of thoughts in our minds. Some people say, "I'm just thinking. I'm not harming anyone." But the Buddha taught that karma is not only created through actions and words, but also through thoughts. Mental karma is the fundamental root, the source of all other karma. For the mind leads all phenomena. The mind is primary. The mind creates. When the mind thinks good, body and speech will follow good actions. When the mind thinks evil, body and speech will create evil actions. Therefore, overthinking without knowing how to think correctly is also a way we bring suffering upon ourselves. In modern life, we often see people who are constantly obsessed with things they cannot control. Some fear the past. Others are anxious about the future. And almost everyone forgets that the present moment is the only moment we are truly alive. When the mind is pulled back to the past, we live with regret. When the mind is pushed into the future, we live with fear. Both are shadows of delusion. The Buddha taught, "Do not seek the past. Do not long for the future. Only the present is where peace resides." But humans are inherently fragile, making it easy for their minds to run everywhere, only to become exhausted. The Dharma channel once recalled a very common story that, nonetheless, contained a profound lesson. In a small village by the river lived Ms. Hoa, an elderly mother with gray hair. Her son, Nam, had gone to work far away in the south. Every night, she would sit by the altar, clasp her hands, recite the Buddha's name, and then sigh. She worried about how her son was eating, if his work was difficult, if his travels were safe. Whenever she heard news of someone having an accident or falling ill, her heart would grow even more restless. She worried so much that she would only doze for a short while each night before waking up with a start. She was afraid. She loved. But because of too much love, she suffered greatly. One day, the village pagoda organized a Dharma talk. Ms. Hoa went to listen to the gentle abbot, whose voice was slow and calm like a soft breeze. He said, "Overthinking does not bring you peace. It only causes your mind to suffer. Your son won't avoid misfortune just because you worry too much. Only when your mind is at peace will your son truly receive blessings." Ms. Hoa listened and suddenly awakened. The abbot added, "Your mind is like water. If the water is murky, the moon cannot reflect. When your mind is at peace, your son will naturally be protected by blessings." From that day on, she practiced sitting still, breathing gently, and reciting the name of Amitabha Buddha every morning and evening. At first, her mind was still agitated, still thinking of her son. But gradually, with each recitation, her heart settled. No longer tossing and turning at night, she began to feel a peace she had never known before. And strangely, a short while later, her son called to report that his work was going smoothly and his health was stable. She understood that when her mind was at peace, blessings naturally came. That story seems simple, but it is indeed a testament to the Buddha's teaching in the Agama Sutras. Every thought we have is an energy. If it is worry, fear, it creates waves of restlessness that spread all around. If it is a peaceful mind, a compassionate mind, it will spread tranquility to even our loved ones. Ms. Hoa could not use her worries to protect her son, but when she stopped, her mind brightened, and that peaceful energy truly protected her son far away. The Buddha once told a similar story to his disciples. There was a woman who lost her child, and her grief drove her mad. She carried her child's body everywhere, seeking help. The Buddha met her and asked what she was looking for. She said, "Please, Master, save my child." The Buddha replied, "I can help, but first, go and find me a few mustard seeds from a house where no one has ever died." The woman, overjoyed, went through the entire village, but soon realized that every single house had experienced death. She returned, understanding the truth that birth, aging, sickness, and death are inevitable. Just like Ms. Hoa, it was only when she understood that worrying cannot change karma that she learned to accept and let go. The greatest suffering for humans is not knowing when to stop, thinking that constant worry, contemplation, and control will bring peace of mind. But in truth, the more one tries to control, the more agitated the mind becomes. The Buddha taught that the mind is as restless as a monkey jumping from branch to branch. If we let our minds leap from one thought to another, we will never find a moment of rest. Every thought is a wave, a seed sown in the field of the mind. If the soil of the mind is not cared for, weeds will grow abundantly. Therefore, practice is learning to recognize each thought as it arises, each idea that comes and goes, without chasing after them. In life, people who think too much often live in stress. They fear making mistakes, fear loss, fear being judged. But the Buddha said that everything happens due to conditions. If there is a cause, there is an effect. When conditions are ripe, it manifests. Overthinking cannot make results ripen faster, nor can it prevent results that have already ripened. Those who understand the Dharma live in harmony with conditions, perform good deeds, and then leave the rest to the karma already sown. Such a mind is called contentment, knowing enough, knowing when to stop, knowing how to let go. Let's examine ourselves. How many times have we lost sleep over trivial matters? How many times have we been sad or angry because of what others said, while they have long forgotten it? How many times have we worried about tomorrow, only for tomorrow to arrive as usual? These thoughts are like vines. The more they entwine, the tighter they constrict. When the mind is bound, we cannot breathe. But with just one thought of letting go, we immediately feel light. Like someone carrying a heavy burden, simply setting it down brings freedom to both body and mind. The Buddha taught that we suffer not because of the task, but because the mind clings to the task. When we do something, if the mind is at peace, no matter how difficult the task, we still find it normal. But if the mind is agitated, even a small task becomes a burden. A person who knows how to practice is one who first looks into their own mind. When you find yourself thinking too much, stop, take a deep breath, exhale slowly, and recite the Buddha's name. That recitation is like cool water, washing away the dust and grime from the mind. Someone asked the Dharma channel, "How can I not think too much?" In truth, one cannot not think, because the mind's function is to perceive. But we can learn how to think correctly, to think virtuous thoughts, wholesome thoughts, thoughts that help broaden our minds. When we replace worry with reciting the Buddha's name, replace fear with gratitude, replace vexation with forgiveness, that is when we are transforming karma. The Buddha taught that a single virtuous thought generates 1,000 blessings, and a single evil thought generates 1,000 transgressions. From Miss Hoa's story, we clearly see that worrying cannot save anyone. It only causes oneself to suffer. When the mind is at peace, blessings naturally come, because blessings do not come from external sources, but from within. The purer the mind, the greater the blessings. The calmer the mind, the lighter the karma. Like a clear bowl of water, dust that falls in naturally sinks. Like a lamp in the night, though the wind may blow, the light still shines. When our minds are bright enough, all fears and anxieties dissipate like morning mist under the sunlight. Finally, practitioners need to remember that to attain peace and joy, one must learn to return to oneself. Do not seek peace in others or in external things, for everything out there is impermanent. Only this mind, if we know how to care for it, how to listen to it, can become a true refuge. Each day, take a few quiet moments just to observe the mind, recite the Buddha's name, and breathe. When we stop, when we learn to smile at our worries. That is when the path to liberation begins to open. As the Buddha's verse teaches, to know enough is to be rich. To know when to stop is to be at peace. To know how to let go is to be free. To know how to return is to be enlightened. The less the mind thinks, the less life suffers. When the mind is at peace, blessings naturally arise. That is the path the world-honored one showed, not for any specific individual, but for all who are still troubled amidst this impermanent world. In life, most people do not know what they are thinking. We walk down the street, but our minds are already preoccupied with tomorrow's work. We eat a meal, but our minds are wandering, thinking about what someone once said. We sit and talk, but our hearts are secretly comparing, judging, calculating. The mind constantly runs everywhere, from the past to the future, from one thing to another, never willing to stop. Until one day, we suddenly realize that although our body is alive, our mind is not truly present in the moment. The Buddha taught that not seeing the mind is the root of delusion. And truly, seeing the mind is the root of enlightenment. Learning to observe the mind is learning to look back at oneself, to recognize what is happening within without rushing to judge or run away. Observing the mind is not something profound or mysterious. It is simply the easiest thing that very few people manage to do, looking directly into one's own mind. When we know what we are thinking, we have taken half a step towards peace. For people suffer not because of circumstances, but because they cannot see that their minds are being led astray by delusions. In the Satipatthana Sutta, the Buddha taught 4 foundations of mindfulness: mindfulness of the body, mindfulness of feelings, mindfulness of the mind, and mindfulness of phenomena. Among these, mindfulness of the mind is an important part that helps practitioners clearly see the impermanent nature of mental states, to know when the mind is greedy, when it is angry, when it is deluded, and thereby no longer be controlled by these states. People today often complain, "I can't control my thoughts." But in reality, the mind doesn't need to be controlled, only to be clearly seen. For when the light of mindfulness shines, the darkness of ignorance naturally dissipates. Just as a dark room that has been dark for decades instantly brightens when a lamp is lit. That clear knowing, that awakened awareness, is that lamp. When we know what we are thinking, that thought no longer has the power to control us. It is merely a cloud passing across the sky, not real. No need to chase it away, no need to hold on to it. There was a woman named Mai who lived in Saigon and worked as an office clerk. Her job was always busy, with a lot of pressure. Every day she had to deal with piles of work, face colleagues, customers, and unpleasant situations. From the moment she opened her eyes in the morning until she went to bed, her mind was always as taut as a violin string. She was often irritable, tired, and there were even days when she just wanted to close the door when she got home and not talk to anyone. A friend saw this and advised her to try sitting meditation to observe her mind. At first, Ms. Mai laughed. "If I could sit still, the sun would rise in the west." But her friend just smiled. "Just try it. Only 10 minutes each morning." Out of curiosity, she tried the next day. She sat on a chair, closed her eyes, took a deep breath, and exhaled slowly. But just a few seconds after closing her eyes, her mind began to dance. Thoughts of yesterday, what her boss said, unfinished work, what to eat today, then thinking about the colleague who annoyed her. The more she tried not to think, the more chaotic her mind became. When she opened her eyes, she felt more tired than before. She said meditation was too difficult, that she wasn't suited for it. But her friend told her it was okay. Just let it be. Don't try not to think. Just clearly see that you are thinking. So, Ms. Mai tried again. This time, she just sat still, not trying to stop her thoughts. Whenever she noticed her mind thinking about something, she would silently say, "Thinking." When she felt annoyed, she said, "Annoyed." When she felt worried, she said, "Worried." And so each wave of emotion came and went. After a few days, she noticed something strange. The waves of anger no longer lasted as long as before. Whenever she felt annoyed, she knew she was annoyed. And that very knowing made the anger dissipate by half. A month went by, and she felt her heart lighter. It was still the same job, still the same people, but her inner reaction had changed. She said, "Before, I lived like someone being swept away by a swift current. Now, I'm still in the current, but I know I'm drifting. And because I know, I'm no longer afraid." That is the power of observing the mind. When we can see the mind, we are no longer led by it. When we can see vexation, vexation loses half its power. In the Shurangama Sutra, the Buddha taught Ananda, when the mind knows the mind, the deluded mind no longer exists. That seeing is mindfulness, the light that illuminates the hidden corners of the heart. The ancients had a saying, "The mind is like a monkey. The will is like a horse. A monkey jumps from branch to branch. A horse runs ceaselessly." Only an awakened person can hold the reins so that the horse of the mind no longer runs wild. In truth, all of us sometimes let our minds get carried away. A mother worries about her child. A husband thinks for his family. A child fears making their parents sad. These worries seem legitimate, but if we let them completely occupy our minds, we will become exhausted. Because worrying doesn't help us solve problems, it only makes the mind more confused. The Buddha taught, "When the mind is at peace, the world is at peace." When we are at peace in our thoughts, everything external also becomes lighter. Practicing observing the mind is the first step to achieving that peace. Someone asked how to observe the mind in a busy life. In fact, you don't need to meditate for a long time or go to a pagoda to observe your mind. You just need to take a few seconds to observe your mind in every small task. When speaking, know you are speaking. When listening, know you are listening. When annoyed, know you are annoyed. When feeling love, know you are feeling love. Mindfulness is not about form, but about that clear, calm awareness. Some people practice meditation while sweeping the house or cultivate while washing dishes. This is because their minds are present in every task, every action. A Zen master once said, "When I drink tea, I only know I am drinking tea. When I walk, I only know I am walking. When I breathe, I only know I am breathing." That is Zen. Just like Ms. Mai, only 10 minutes each morning, sitting still and looking back at her mind, changed her entire life. It wasn't that the circumstances became less stressful, but that her mind no longer reacted as before. When the mind is bright, we see everything as light. In Buddhist teachings, observing the mind is a method to clearly see the impermanent nature of thoughts. Thoughts come and go. Emotions arise and dissipate. No thought exists forever. It is only because we cling to them that they remain. When we let go, they naturally depart, like holding water in your hand. The tighter you grasp, the more water slips away. Only when you open your hand can you hold a drop of water in your calm palm. The Buddha taught, "One who sees the mind sees the Buddha. One who does not see the mind wanders endlessly in samsara." This means that when we can clearly see each stream of thought within us, we have walked half the path to liberation. There is no need to eradicate vexations, only to see them. There is no need to force the mind to be at peace, only to know when the mind is not at peace. That very knowing is the path that leads us to tranquility. When Ms. Mai recounted her experience, many people were surprised by the change. But in truth, anyone who practices can feel it. A person who was once hot-tempered can become gentle. A person who was once afraid can become strong. This is simply because they learned to look directly into their mind. For, as the Buddha taught, our mind is like a river. When the water is murky, we cannot see the bottom. When the water is still, everything naturally becomes clear. Learning to observe the mind is not just to reduce stress, but to return to living authentically with oneself. We are no longer led astray by anger, worries, or doubts. We learn to stop, look, breathe, and smile. At that moment, each breath becomes a source of peace. Each step becomes meditation. No need to go far. Peace lies right within the awakened mind. If each day we can spend just a few minutes looking back at ourselves, identifying our emotions, we will see miracles. How many things that once made us angry now seem small? How many things that once made us worried now seem insignificant? The mind that knows how to look back at itself is an awakened mind. And a person who knows how to look back at themselves is a person stepping out of suffering. The Buddha taught in the Dhammapada, though one may conquer 1,000 times 1,000 men in battle, yet he is the greatest of conquerors who conquers himself. Conquering oneself is the most glorious achievement. Observing the mind is that path to conquering oneself. Each time we recognize we are being pulled by delusions and know how to stop, how to smile, that is when we win. Each time we are angry and know we are angry, that is awakening. Each time we are afraid and know we are afraid, that is practice. Remember, when we know what we are thinking, we have begun to step out of vexation. When the mind is bright, life naturally becomes less painful. The one who knows how to observe the mind is the one returning to the Buddha within themselves. People often say that patience is a sign of weakness, of being inferior, of resignation. But in Buddhist teachings, patience, Nhan, is one of the noblest virtues, a quiet strength that can transform vexation into peace and hatred into compassion. Many suffer because their minds refuse to be patient. When someone says something harsh, they immediately flare up, wanting to retaliate. When faced with something disagreeable, they immediately become annoyed, wanting to argue their point. But it is in these very moments that we unknowingly sow more seeds of vexation, causing the mind to become increasingly restless. A person who practices will stop and ask, why should I let someone else steal my peace of mind with just a few words? In the Dhammapada, the Buddha taught that there is no fire like hatred, no evil karma heavier than a resentful mind. When anger arises in the mind, wisdom is obscured, and words and actions can easily lead to mistakes, creating negative karma for the future. It all begins with a single thought of impatience. Ordinary people see external harm, but the wise see the root cause within their own minds. The Buddha once taught, "Without patience, even cultivating for countless eons, one will find it difficult to see the path." This is because patience is the root of all virtuous actions. Without patience, one cannot uphold precepts, cannot practice compassion, and cannot dwell in mindfulness. In a past life of the world-honored one, he was once an ascetic named Shanti, practicing in a deep forest. One day, King Kali, while hunting, came upon the ascetic and decided to test him. The king ordered his soldiers to cut off the ascetic's limbs, wanting to see if his mind would harbor anger. Despite his body being tortured, with blood flowing everywhere, the ascetic Shanti remained calm, without a single word of complaint. When the king asked, "Are you angry with me?" the ascetic replied, "No, Your Majesty, for anger cannot save me from pain. It only causes the mind more suffering. I only wish that Your Majesty may soon understand the Dharma and not create more evil karma." This very compassionate mind moved King Kali to regret his actions. He prostrated himself, confessed his wrongdoing, and sought refuge. This story, though ancient, clearly reflects life today. How many disputes in families, workplaces, and society originate from a lack of patience? People argue because of ego, because they want to win, to prove they are right. But the more they prove, the further apart they grow. Sometimes, all it takes is one person to be patient, to be quiet, and all storms will pass. Patience in the Dharma is not about enduring bitterness, but about understanding and love. When we see someone angry, we understand that they are suffering. When we maintain a peaceful mind, we are dissolving that suffering. The Dharma channel once recalled a simple but profound everyday story. Mr. Lam, a gentle farmer, lived in a small hamlet in the Mekong Delta. His house was next to a neighbor named Tu, who had a hot temper and was often suspicious. One day, while remeasuring their land, Mr. Tu claimed Mr. Lam had encroached a few inches and immediately began to loudly curse and insult him. Mr. Lam was initially annoyed and thought of responding, but then he remembered a Dharma talk he had heard at the pagoda. The fire of anger only burns in the mind of the angry person. For one who knows patience, it is like a calm lake. Even if fire comes, it will extinguish itself. He took a deep breath, silently recited Nam Mo A Di Da Fat, and quietly walked back into his house. His wife, Seeing this, asked, "Are you going to tolerate that? Aren't you angry?" He just smiled. What good would being angry do? If I get angry, I'm the one who suffers first. A few months later, Mr. Tu fell seriously ill, and no one was there to care for him. Mr. Lamb went over daily, cooked porridge for him, and looked after him carefully. Mr. Tu was deeply moved and wept, saying, "I was wrong. I used to think you wanted to win, but I never imagined you were so kind." From then on, the two families became close and helped each other. Everyone in the hamlet praised Mr. Lamb for his blessings. These blessings did not come from luck, but from his patience and his ability to transform anger with a compassionate heart. The Buddha taught that there are 3 types of patience: patience in the face of suffering, patience in the face of evil people, and patience in the face of natural phenomena. Patience in the face of suffering means that when we encounter illness or loss, we do not blame heaven or others, but accept it as part of our karma. Patience in the face of evil people means that when someone offends us, we do not retaliate, but listen, seeing that they are creating karma for themselves. And patience in the face of natural phenomena means understanding that everything is impermanent. It comes and goes. Nothing lasts forever. A person who understands these 3 things can still smile, even when living in adversity. Someone once asked me, "Teacher, I am too patient. Will people look down on me?" I replied, "If you are patient out of weakness, people might take advantage. But if you are patient with wisdom, you are upholding your spiritual resolve. People can only defeat you with words, but they cannot defeat your mind." Patience does not mean perpetual silence, but choosing the right time to speak when the mind is at peace. A word spoken in anger can destroy a close relationship, but a word spoken from a peaceful heart can save a relationship, even save a person's life. In the Anguttara Nikaya, the Buddha taught, "Whoever can endure harsh words is the greatest victor." People often want to conquer others with power, with logic, with talent. But practitioners have only one enemy to conquer: their own angry mind. That mind is very strong because it is a habit accumulated over many lifetimes. Each time we get angry, it is a time we lose to it. Each time we know how to stop, know how to recite the Buddha's name, know how to breathe slowly, and smile. It is a time we win. Little by little, our mind becomes gentler, lighter, and more at peace. Remember, a person who knows patience is not weak, but very strong, because they know how to control themselves. While others are swept away by anger, they stand firm like a mountain. While others lose their composure over an insult, they maintain a smile. That is the conduct of a bodhisattva. When patience reaches the point of non-anger, compassion naturally arises. We no longer see anyone as an enemy, but only as sentient beings suffering from ignorance. From that point, love replaces hatred, and light replaces darkness. If each of us, when faced with something disagreeable, could stop for a second, take a deep breath, and recite Nam Mo A Di Da Fat, how much suffering in this world would diminish, because anger can dissipate with just one breath. But the consequences of words spoken in anger can sometimes last a lifetime. That is why in the Dhammapada, the Buddha taught, hatred ceases not by hatred, but by love. This is an eternal law. People often pray for peace, but peace does not come from outside. Peace only comes when we know how to be patient, how to let go, how to stop. Some people recite scriptures and offer to the Buddha every day, but if anyone displeases them, they flare up. Then their spiritual effort is still incomplete. Meanwhile, there are others who do not preach any doctrine, but live peacefully, do not cause suffering to anyone, and are always patient in all matters. They are the ones truly practicing the Dharma. When we hear the story of the ascetic Shanti again, let us ask ourselves, if someone insults us, can we maintain a compassionate mind like him? Perhaps we cannot yet, but just by practicing a little each day, observing our mind whenever anger arises, knowing how to stop, how to breathe, that is already the beginning of practicing patience. The Buddha does not ask us to become saints in one day. He only taught that knowing how to be better today than yesterday is practice. Try practicing it in daily life. When others say harsh words, remember that they are also suffering. When someone makes a mistake, think that they are also learning. When we see someone angry, see it as a mirror reflecting ourselves. Sometimes their anger is there to teach us a lesson about patience. As the patriarchs taught, no one comes to harm us, only to help us cultivate. If someone makes us angry today, thank them, for they are helping us realize that our minds are not yet peaceful enough. If someone speaks ill of us, thank them, for they are helping us see that our hearts still cling. Bit by bit, we learn to live lightly, gently, compassionately, and then our minds will naturally be at peace, even if life still has many storms. A person who knows patience not only keeps peace for themselves, but also sows peace for many around them. For when one person becomes less angry, the whole family is at peace. When one family knows patience, society as a whole will have less conflict. And when many people know patience, this world will have less suffering. Let's start with ourselves, right at this moment, with a slow breath, a gentle smile, a recitation of the Buddha's name. For the one who knows patience is the one who has deeply understood the Buddha's teachings and is stepping truly close to the shore of true happiness. There are times when we feel our heart is like a small flame, and even a gentle breeze can make it flare up. A disagreeable word, an insensitive action, an unexpected event is enough for a flood of anger, hurt, and annoyance to surge. People say that in this life, no one makes us suffer. It is only our own mind that lacks patience. Patience is not enduring in pain, but maintaining peace in a storm, keeping a smile when facing adversity. Someone once asked, "Why should I be patient? If they are wrong, I have the right to resist, don't I?" But the more they resisted, the more they argued, the more exhausted their heart became. The one who loses peace first is not the opponent, but oneself. The Buddha taught that in life, whoever can maintain a patient mind is the greatest victor, because conquering others is only temporary, while conquering oneself is eternal. People who overthink, who cling to things, are actually sensitive and easily hurt. They always want everything to go their way, want everyone to understand, to love, to acknowledge them. But life is not like that. People have countless minds, countless beliefs. Each person is like a passing breeze. No two are alike. If we keep trying to grasp tightly, we only invite more suffering. A person who knows patience is a person who knows how to let go. Patience does not mean weakness, but choosing peace over struggle. Imagine two types of trees, the soft willow and the hard pine. When a storm arises, the proud pine stands firm and resists. But with just a strong enough storm, it can break. The willow, however, bows and sways with the wind, soft, yet never falling. In Buddhist scriptures, it is taught that the mind of a practitioner should also be like the willow, knowing how to adapt to conditions without being swept away, knowing how to bow without losing oneself. If you are too rigid, you break easily. If you are soft, you can live long. In life, the more stubborn a person is, the more they cling to their ego, the more easily they break. When someone acts against their wishes, they get angry. When someone disrespects them, they feel hurt. When others are praised, they become envious. All these emotions stem from the ego. The self wants to be superior, to be right, to be glorified. The Buddha taught that clinging to the ego gives rise to hatred, and letting go of the ego brings peace and joy. There is an ancient verse, "Hate others, and others will hate you. Despise others, and you will gain nothing over them." This means that when we hate someone, we ourselves are being hated in return. When we despise someone, our own heart is being consumed by the fire of hatred. The first one to be burned is ourselves. Therefore, hating anyone, despising anyone, ultimately only makes us suffer first. Forgiveness, on the other hand, is a gift we give to ourselves. Forgiveness is not weakness, but a manifestation of strength. The weak cling to their minds, the strong let go. The small argue right and wrong. The great maintain peace. In the Dhammapada, the Buddha taught, "Hatred ceases not by hatred, but by love. This is an eternal law." Patience does not mean silent endurance of injustice, but choosing to respond with compassion and wisdom, not allowing our minds to be drawn into the cycle of hatred. There is a small story that contains a profound truth. Miss Lan was a high school teacher. In her class, there was a student named Tuan, who was naughty, stubborn, and often rebellious. Many other teachers complained that Tuan was disrespectful and ill-mannered, so they chose to punish and scold him. But the more they punished, the more Tuan resisted. Each time he was yelled at, his eyes grew colder and more distant. One day, when Tuan again caused trouble in class, instead of scolding him, Ms. Lan just looked at him and gently said, "I'm not angry with you. I just see that you're sad." That sentence stunned Tuan. From that day on, she began to learn about his life. She learned that Tuan lived with his grandmother, his parents were divorced, and he lacked affection. Each time he saw his friends being picked up by their parents, he would silently watch them leave. All of Tuan's stubbornness was just a facade for his loneliness. Instead of punishment, Ms. Lan chose to listen and encourage. She didn't say much. She just smiled at him every morning when she came to class. She assigned Tuan small tasks, such as helping classmates or tidying the teacher's desk. He stopped causing trouble. A year later, Tuan became a well-behaved student and even apologized to her for his past mistakes. When Ms. Lan received a handwritten card with the words, "Thank you for not abandoning me," she shed tears. That story shows us that a soft heart has more power than any punishment. Ms. Lan did not need authority, did not need to scold, but only used patience and compassion to transform him. In Buddhism, that is the perfection of patience, Kshanti Paramita, one of the 6 great perfections of a bodhisattva. Patience is not just enduring. It is using wisdom to overcome anger, using love to transform suffering. People often say, "A little patience leads to a calm and peaceful life." But the Buddha taught something deeper. Patience is not just to avoid trouble, but to eradicate the root of anger in the mind. When we are patient out of fear of trouble, that is merely a superficial form. But when we are patient out of compassion, wanting to keep our minds at peace, that is true patience. A truly patient person does not need to prove anything, does not need to win or lose. They see all words and actions of others like clouds passing through the sky, coming and going, without clinging. In the Samyutta Nikaya, the Buddha told a story about a monk who was cursed by people. Someone asked, "Are you not angry?" The monk just smiled and replied, "If someone offers a gift and I do not accept it, to whom does that gift belong?" The questioner replied, "It belongs to the one who offered it." The monk said, "It is the same. If they curse me and I do not accept it, the curse returns to them." Indeed, a practitioner who knows patience is one who does not allow their mind to be defiled by the actions of others. In daily life, patience takes many forms. Sometimes it is patience with someone who offends us. Sometimes it is patience with circumstances. Sometimes it is patience with ourselves. When our child makes a mistake, instead of getting angry, we take a deep breath, look into their innocent eyes, and see that they are also learning to be human. When spouses disagree, instead of trying to be right, we take a step back to see that love is more important than winning. When work is stalled, instead of complaining, we learn to quietly observe. For every challenge is a lesson in interdependent origination. In the Buddha's teachings, patience is not just an action, but a mental practice. Patience in the body is not retaliating. Patience in speech is not uttering hurtful words. Patience in mind is not giving rise to anger. A practitioner of patience, even when criticized, maintains a compassionate mind. Even when wronged, maintains a peaceful mind. Such patience is not feigned, but the result of wisdom and contemplation, knowing that all things are impermanent. Praise and blame are merely passing breezes. Someone once said, "Too much patience makes one weak." But in truth, only a person who can be patient has the strongest inner strength. Patience is not ignorance of pain, but knowing how to transform pain into light. Just as water seems weak, yet water can wear through stone. Patience is the path that leads us to wisdom. For only when the mind is not agitated can we see the true nature of things. When a person's heart is gentle, everything becomes pleasant. When a person's mind is rigid, the world becomes thorny. The Buddha once taught, "The world is not to blame. It is only because the human mind is not yet at peace." An unintentional word can break a relationship, but a compassionate glance can heal a heart. Patience is like that. It is not noisy. It does not need to prove itself. But it can change the small world within each person. Let's look back at ourselves. How many times have we been angry with loved ones over very small matters? How many times have we said words that hurt others just because we couldn't be patient for a moment? Each time, we burn away the merit we have accumulated. The scriptures teach, when a single thought of anger arises, the fire of anger burns down the forest of merit. Therefore, practicing patience is preserving blessings, nurturing the mind, and is the root of all wholesome dharma. A person who knows patience does not need to seek peace, for peace is already present in their mind. But a person who does not know patience, even living in a palace, will still suffer because their heart is always turbulent. So, let us learn to live like the willow tree, knowing how to bow, knowing how to listen, knowing how to let the wind pass through. Softness is not weakness. Softness is knowing how to adapt to conditions without losing the way. Life sometimes requires us to take a loss, but that loss can be a blessing. When we are patient, we keep our minds free from anger. When we are not angry, we do not create karma. When we do not create karma, future lives will be peaceful. But if, for a moment of impatience, we create resentment, that karma will follow us forever. Remember, the patient person is the one who sows good seeds. Those seeds may not sprout today, but tomorrow they will bear the flowers of peace. I want to send a message to the listener. Life is impermanent. Conditions come together and then dissolve. But each time we can be patient, our mind grows. When the mind is at peace, blessings naturally come. When compassion fills the heart, suffering naturally dissipates. Let's practice patience, starting today, in every word, every thought, every small action. For once the mind is patient, this life will become light as the wind, free as the clouds. There is a fire in the human heart that everyone has known, seen, and allowed to flare up, consuming so many good things. That fire is called anger. Anger not only causes people to lose their composure for a moment, but can also devastate a person's entire life. An uncontrolled word, a glance filled with rage, an action in a fit of anger, all can become a knife piercing the very people we love. Someone once said that anger is the greatest enemy of wisdom. The Buddha taught that a single outburst of anger burns down a whole forest of merit. Because merit is accumulated through countless days of practicing good deeds, upholding precepts, and performing acts of blessing. But just one moment of anger, one impulsive action, can destroy everything we have painstakingly built. The mind of anger is a fire. Once it flares up, wisdom is obscured, compassion is buried, and happiness also drifts away. In life, each of us has been angry. Sometimes it's because someone said something wrong or did something wrong. Sometimes it's because we feel hurt or disrespected. Sometimes it's because our ego attachment is too strong. We always think we are right. We are superior. We deserve respect. And then when someone touches that ego, we immediately react. Anger flares up, harsh words are uttered, and evil karma follows. But have we ever considered that when we get angry, we don't hurt others as much as we hurt ourselves? When anger arises, breathing becomes rapid, the heart races, hot blood rushes up, the face changes color, the body is affected, the mind is chaotic, saying wrong words, doing wrong things, and then regretting it. Sometimes the price to pay is a broken relationship, a shattered family, or even a lifetime of torment. The story of Mr. Howe is an example. He was originally a diligent man who loved his wife and children, but he had a bad temper. In his heart, anything that displeased him made him uncomfortable. One day, simply because his wife happened to cook rice differently, he became angry. Words were exchanged. Anger surged, and he raised his hand and slapped his wife. The sound of the slap resonated, but more painful was the sound of his child sobbing in the corner of the house. His wife hugged their child and left for her mother's house. The house became strangely empty. Day after day, Mr. Howe sat in that house, eating cold rice, looking at the bowl his wife used to wash, hearing the wind blow through the eaves, and his heart ached. When angry, he felt he was right, but when quiet, he felt his heart was empty. One day, passing by a pagoda, he heard a Dharma talk. A single outburst of anger burns down a whole forest of merit. That sentence pierced his heart like a knife. He stood, stunned, tears falling. It turned out that because of a single fit of anger, he had lost everything. After the Dharma talk, he sought out the abbot, knelt down, and said through tears, "Reverend, I have caused suffering to my wife and child. I deeply regret it. What should I do to mend it?" The abbot looked at him kindly and said slowly, My child, anger is ignorance. It is not seeing the truth. When you are angry, you are burning away your own blessings. Learn to stop. When angry, just take a deep breath. Exhale slowly. Be silent. And recite Amitabha Buddha. The anger will dissipate, and the mind will be at peace. From that day on, Mr. Hao practiced as the abbot taught. Each time he felt his heart flare up, he clenched his fists, took a deep breath, and recited Nam Mo A Dida Fat. At first, it was very difficult. Sometimes he had to go outside and walk far away to avoid losing his temper. But gradually, he noticed a change in himself. Each breath was a time anger was soothed. Each recitation was a lamp lit in the darkness. After half a year, he went to apologize to his wife, sincerely, without making excuses. His wife silently looked at his earnest eyes, and then tears fell. The family reunited, and happiness returned. The Buddha taught that an angry person is like one who stabs themselves with a poisoned dagger. For when we are angry with someone, we think we are harming them, but in reality, we are harming ourselves. We allow our minds to be hurt. We allow our bodies to suffer. Anger is like a fire in a house. If we don't extinguish it early, it will spread and burn away all peace. And when peace is lost, we will have nothing left to rely on. In the Dhammapada, the Buddha taught, hatred ceases not by hatred, but by love. This is an eternal law. This means that if someone harms us and we respond with anger, we only perpetuate suffering. But if we know how to remain calm, to look with a compassionate heart, we can break that vicious cycle. Anger only ceases when we no longer nourish it. Someone said, I also want to be less angry, but it's so difficult. In truth, it's difficult because we still think we are right. We haven't yet seen that the root of anger is ego attachment. When the ego is strong, anything disagreeable becomes a reason to get angry. But when we see that all things are impermanent, that everyone has their own karma and suffering, anger no longer has a place to sprout. When we understand, we will feel compassion. When we feel compassion, we can no longer be angry. True practitioners of the Dharma base their practice on patience and compassion. It's not that they don't encounter disagreeable things, but they know how to smile, how to look with the eyes of wisdom. When cursed, they think, this person is suffering. That's why they speak this way. When criticized, they tell themselves, these words are an opportunity for me to examine myself. For those of us in the ordinary world who have not yet reached such a level of practice, we can start with the smallest things. When angry, take a deep breath. When uncomfortable, exhale slowly. When insulted, remain silent, and always remember to recite a Buddha's name. Each time we stop before an outburst of anger, we sow a good seed in our mind. Gradually, that seed will grow into a forest of peace. But if we let anger control us, we will live forever in suffering. Some people harbor resentment their entire lives, unable to let go even on their deathbed. They do not know that it is that very anger that drags them through samsara, deepening their karmic obstacles. In a Dharma talk, a lay practitioner asked the Buddha, "World-honored one, where can an angry person be reborn?" The Buddha replied, "One who is very angry will be reborn in hell, where the fire burns ceaselessly." Because anger is fire, an angry mind attracts fire. Those words sound terrifying, but they are true. We don't need to wait until death. Right now, when we are angry, we are already in hell. Each fit of anger is a flame that burns us, causing us to live in pain, turmoil, and restlessness. Therefore, the Buddha taught that a practitioner is one who knows how to extinguish anger, not by suppressing it, but by understanding and contemplating it. When we see that anger is suffering, that it is useless, it naturally dissipates. Just as when we see fire is hot, we dare not touch it. When we see anger is dangerous, we will naturally stop. There are people who spend their entire lives studying the Dharma, listening to teachings, and reciting scriptures. But if anyone touches their fame or profit, they get angry. At such a time, even reciting 1,000 volumes of scriptures is useless, because the mind has not truly practiced the Buddha's words. True practice is not about speaking well, but about being able to stop a single thought of anger. When stopped, the mind is as bright as a mirror, the heart as light as a cloud. If we pay attention, we will see that anger only lasts a few minutes, but its consequences can last a lifetime. A word spoken in anger can cause someone pain for months and years. An action in anger can make us lose everything. Therefore, let's learn to guard the mind like guarding a lamp in the wind. When the wind blows, shield it with your breath. When the fire flares, temporarily step away. That is how to save oneself. Everyone gets angry sometimes in life, but what's important is whether we know how to return. Just like Mr. Howe, when he realized his mistake, he knew how to repent, how to mend, and happiness returned. No one is born perfect, but a person who knows how to look back, how to apologize, how to learn from mistakes, is a person on the path to enlightenment. Less anger naturally brightens the mind. More patience naturally increases blessings. More compassion naturally ends suffering. It all begins with a peaceful breath. Inhale, knowing you are angry. Exhale, knowing you are letting go. Just that much is practice. May all practitioners remember that a moment of anger leads to a lifetime of regret. Maintaining a peaceful mind preserves happiness. When angry, remember the Buddha's teaching. A single outburst of anger burns down a whole forest of merit. Take a deep breath. Exhale slowly. Be silent and recite the Buddha's name. When the mind is at peace, all things turn wholesome. When the heart awakens, all suffering dissipates. And when the light of compassion is lit, the darkness of hatred will naturally disappear. Some people lament their entire lives that they are unfortunate, that fate is so cruel, that others always have smooth sailing while they suffer. They curse life, blame others, and even turn their backs on faith in the Dharma. But they don't realize that everything we experience today is the fruit of the seeds we sowed in the past. Whether in this life or many past lives, the law of karma is impartial to no one. It is not dictated by any god, nor is it given as blessings or curses by the Buddha. Everything is due to ourselves, due to every action, every word, every thought that arises in the mind. The Buddha taught that the mind is primary. The mind creates. The mind leads all phenomena. When we give rise to a virtuous thought, seeds of blessing are sown in the field of the mind. When we give rise to an evil thought, seeds of suffering are also sown. As the cause, so the effect, like a shadow following a form. Thus, those who understand the Dharma see the law of karma operating in every breath, every gesture, every relationship. Those who do not understand the Dharma still think their life is due to luck or misfortune or caused by others. Hence, resentment, vexation, and injustice arise. In the Kshitigarbha Sutra, the Buddha taught that whoever sows evil karma will reap suffering for countless lives. This saying is not to frighten, but to awaken people. Be mindful of every action, every thought, because karma does not wait until the next life to manifest. Sometimes, just one evil thought today can make our mind restless, make life chaotic, and bring a string of misfortunes. Someone said, "I haven't done anything evil, yet I still suffer." But they forget that karma has 3 doors: body, speech, and mind. Sometimes we don't harm anyone with our hands, but we harm people with cruel words, with contemptuous glances, with envy and jealousy. These things, though intangible, are all seeds silently germinating in the field of the mind. Look around us. How many disputes, resentments, and injustices all arise from greed, hatred, and delusion. A person, out of greed, cheats another of their wages, thinking they gain profit. But in reality, they are sowing seeds of loss. A person, out of hatred, utters curses, thinking they win. But in reality, they are sowing seeds of suffering. A person, out of delusion, lies, thinking they are clever. But in reality, they are bringing foolish karma upon themselves. Karma is like a shadow. No matter where you hide, it follows you. Even if you forget it, it still remembers you. There is a story about Mr. Than, a man once considered the most successful in the region. He owned his own company, had many employees, and lived in a grand house. But people only saw that glamorous exterior and did not see that within him was a soul filled with greed and arrogance. He often cheated his workers out of their wages, citing defective goods or slow work as reasons to cut costs. Once, a worker came to ask for money to take his child to the hospital. Mr. Than coldly said, "If you make mistakes, you don't get a bonus. Don't talk about emotions." The worker left in tears. As years passed, his company grew larger, but the people around him grew more distant. One day, an unexpected lawsuit struck. A former partner accused him of fraud in a contract. His assets were frozen. His company collapsed within a few months. He was brought to court and then imprisoned. In the cold prison cell, sleepless through long nights, he looked back at his life for the first time. He wondered, "Why have I come to this?" At first, he blamed life, blamed others for harming him. But one morning, when he heard a monk giving a Dharma talk to the inmates, the saying, "As you sow, so shall you reap," shook him. The monk said, "No one causes us suffering except our own minds. Everything you are receiving is the result of what you have done." Hearing this, he burst into tears. He had never cried in his life. Now he clearly saw that his greed had led him to cheat. His ego had made him look down on others, and those very seeds had ripened into suffering. From that day on, he began to meditate every morning, reciting the name of Amitabha Buddha, vowing that when released from prison, he would live an honest life and help the poor. Many years later, after serving his sentence, he kept his vow, opening a charity fund called Seeds of Karma, dedicated to supporting struggling workers. People asked him why he did it, and he just smiled. I am paying off old debts and sowing new seeds. Mr. Than's story is like a mirror reflecting the law of karma in life. No one escapes karma, nor is anyone unjustly punished by karma. Karma is simply a mirror that reflects the mind, helping us see what we have done so that we can awaken and transform. When we understand karma, we will stop resenting, because we know that those who do evil today are also creating seeds of suffering for themselves. And if we maintain a kind heart, blessings will naturally come. The Buddha taught that if you want to know the causes of your past life, look at the fruits of this life. If you want to know the fruits of your future life, look at the causes of this life. A short sentence, but enough to awaken us. Karma is not just a metaphysical concept, but a law governing the operation of consciousness. When we sow a good thought in our heart, like a smile, a thank you, an act of helping others, in that very moment, our mind is refreshed and finds joy. Conversely, when we give rise to an evil thought, like resentment, jealousy, or hatred, at that very moment, our mind becomes restless and suffers. There is no need to wait for the next life. The retribution has already begun in this present moment. A person who lives with faith in karma no longer fears or resents. They understand that everything is just cause and effect. Knowing the cause, we will not resent anyone. Knowing the effect, we will not blame life. If we encounter suffering today, let's see it as old karma ripening. Let's accept it with a peaceful mind and sow new seeds of compassion, patience, and generosity. Like a farmer who understands that if the field has weeds this season, it's because they were lazy in weeding the previous season. They don't blame the field. They just diligently tend to it again. Similarly, we don't need to blame life. We just need to cultivate our own minds. Karma can be transformed. Results can be changed. The Buddha did not teach us to escape karma, but to transform karma. When we do good deeds, when we repent, when we resolve to help others, the bad seeds will gradually weaken, and the good seeds will grow strong. A virtuous mind is the antidote to evil karma. Someone said, "I've suffered for too long. Can I change my fate?" The answer is yes. For the Buddha once said, "There is no karma that cannot be transformed, only fear that the mind will not change." A single moment of awakening can dissolve 1,000 moments of delusion. A sincere apology can end countless enmities. A small virtuous act can open the path to great blessings. Each day, we only need to give rise to good intentions, speak kind words, and do good deeds, then that good karma will silently bear peaceful fruit, sooner or later. Many people ask, if karma is so fair, why do evil people prosper and good people suffer? In truth, that is only because the fruit has not yet ripened. Some people sowed seeds of blessings in a previous life, so they enjoy wealth and prosperity in this life. But because they sow evil in this life, they will suffer in the next. Some people created negative karma in a previous life and are paying the price in this life. But because their mind is kind and they know how to do good deeds, they will be at peace in the next life. Karma operates in cycles, never erring. It's just that we don't have enough wisdom to see it all. Therefore, the most important thing is that in this very moment, we must be awake and sow good seeds. When we encounter something disagreeable, do not rush into anger. Ask yourself, what karma am I sowing? When you see someone suffering, do not turn away, because helping them is also helping yourself. When you see others succeed, do not be envious, because wishing them joy is also sowing blessings for yourself. Every virtuous thought today is a seed of peace for tomorrow. Every virtuous action is a flower blooming in the field of blessings. Believe that no good deed is useless, no matter how small, like a greeting, a smile, an act of yielding. The Buddha taught that a single drop of virtuous water can cool the entire ocean of suffering. Life is short. Do not waste it on resentment and envy. Let your mind be like fertile ground, sowing only good seeds. When you encounter adversity, see it as an opportunity to repay a debt. When you meet an evil person, see it as someone helping you cultivate patience. When you meet a virtuous person, see it as a teacher guiding you to goodness. When you understand karma, life will no longer be a series of fears, but a journey of sowing love and reaping peace. Please remember the Buddha's teaching. A person who understands karma does not blame heaven or others, but sows good and reaps peace. If we can maintain such a mind, no matter where we are, no matter the circumstances, we will find joy. Because we know that every breath we take is sowing seeds of happiness for the future. In life, there are some people who think they have practiced, performed good deeds, and accumulated merit. They are vegetarians, recite scriptures, visit pagodas, and prostrate before the Buddha every day. But then, with just one disagreeable word, one unsatisfactory action, they lose their temper and speak harshly, causing others pain. At such times, they forget that practice is not for others to see, but for oneself to find peace. Many people spend their lives searching for the Buddha outside, forgetting that the Buddha is within the mind. If the mind is not yet at peace, not yet compassionate, not yet letting go, then no matter how beautiful the outward form, it is not yet true practice. The Buddha once taught, "When the mind is pure, the Buddha realm is pure." Practice is not a matter of hands, feet, or mouth, but a matter of the mind. A person who knows how to practice is one who knows how to examine themselves in every small matter. They know how to listen when criticized. They know how to smile when facing conflict. They know how to yield when facing disputes. They do not try to prove that they are good. They just quietly live virtuously, live gently. Because they understand that spiritual effort is not in outward forms, but in inner transformation. Conversely, a person who has not yet learned to practice often lets their mind chase after winning or losing, right or wrong. They think that going to the pagoda is enough, that reciting scriptures is complete, but their heart is still full of ego attachment, still wants others to listen to them, still judges others when they see someone make a mistake. They may recite scriptures hundreds of times, chant the Buddha's name thousands of times, but their mind is still turbulent when their ego is touched. At such a time, the Buddha is not far away, but is standing, watching us, gently reminding us, practice is not for showing off. Practice is to reduce anger, reduce clinging, reduce suffering. There is a small story that contains a great lesson. Miss Nam, from a neighboring village, had been a lifelong vegetarian for over 10 years. Everyone in the area knew she was meticulous in observing the vegetarian precepts. Every full moon and new moon day, she would go to the pagoda to make offerings and prostrate before the Buddha with great sincerity. But what was special was that almost everyone in the hamlet had been scolded by her at least once. She complained about noisy neighbors, criticized others for not knowing how to practice, and argued over trivial matters. Once, just because a neighbor's cat ran over and knocked over a flower pot, she scolded the neighbor for the entire morning. People were both afraid and sympathetic because they knew she was kind, just hot-tempered. One day, the village pagoda held a retreat for reciting the Buddha's name. Miss Nam also participated. During the Dharma talk, the abbot spoke about the meaning of practice. The abbot asked the assembly, "In your opinion, what is practice?" Many answered, "Practice is being vegetarian. Practice is reciting the Buddha's name. Practice is going to the pagoda. Practice is doing good deeds." The abbot smiled gently. and said, "Those actions are means. True practice is to rectify the mind, to transform from greed, hatred, and delusion to loving kindness, compassion, sympathetic joy, and equanimity. If we are vegetarian, but our heart is still angry, still clinging, still wanting to win or lose, then that vegetarianism only purifies the body, not the mind. The Buddha looks at the mind, not the mouth." Upon hearing this, Ms. Nam felt as if someone had awakened her. In her mind, the question echoed, "Am I vegetarian to purify the body or to purify the mind?" She was startled, realizing that for years she had only focused on external forms and forgotten the root. She was vegetarian to avoid killing, but her words killed the joy of many. She prostrated before the Buddha every day, but her mind harbored anger towards her neighbors. She recited the Amitabha Sutra, but had never looked deeply into herself. Tears welled up in her eyes. After that talk, she went home and sat alone for a long time. From that day on, she began to practice listening. When neighbors said something disagreeable, she took a deep breath, exhaled slowly, and did not reply. When she saw someone make a mistake, she chose to remain silent. Once, a neighbor asked, "Ms. Nam, why are you so gentle now? You don't scold anyone anymore." She smiled. "Now, I'm practicing vegetarianism for my mind, too." That sentence moved the listener. Gradually, she truly changed. Her neighbors saw her as joyful and gentle, and everyone loved and respected her. At the pagoda, people said, "Now we see that Ms. Nam truly knows how to practice." That story, though small, is a clear testament to the difference between someone who knows how to practice and someone who doesn't. A person who knows how to practice always examines themselves, not looking for faults in others. A person who has not yet learned to practice always looks for faults in others and forgets to look at themselves. The Buddha taught that the foolish see the faults of others. The wise see their own faults. If each day we know how to return and observe our minds, to see if we are angry today, if we are envious, if we are selfish, then that is practice. A person who knows how to practice is not someone who never feels sad or angry, but someone who knows how to recognize anger and not let it control them. When someone offends them, they know how to smile, quietly turn inward, and recite the Buddha's name. When someone is jealous, they do not retaliate, but silently think, "Everyone bears their own karma. I don't need to add to mine." That very mindfulness is the sign of a person who is practicing. Many people think that simply going to the pagoda is practice. But in truth, Practice is practicing in life. In work, in family, in every relationship, there are opportunities to practice. When children make mistakes, we choose gentle words instead of scolding. That is practice. When our spouse makes us angry, we know how to be patient. That is practice. When outsiders speak ill of us, we smile and let it go. That is practice. True practice lies in our mental reactions to adversity. The longer one practices, the softer the mind becomes. The Buddha once taught that precepts are the teacher of the mind. Upholding precepts is not only avoiding evil, but also a way to keep our minds pure. When we are vegetarian, recite the Buddha's name, chant scriptures. These are means to train the mind, to remind ourselves to always incline towards goodness. But if we turn these actions into an excuse to criticize others, then we have strayed. A true practitioner never criticizes those who do not practice, because they understand that everyone has different karmic conditions. Some are just beginning. Some are in the middle of the path. Some are close to the destination. They only wish that everyone finds peace and joy. A person who knows how to practice will not boast that they know how to practice. They live humbly, gently, without comparison. Someone said, "I've practiced for 10 years. Why am I still suffering?" The Buddha taught that practice is not to end suffering immediately, but to understand suffering and transform it. When we understand suffering, we blame less. When we know the cause, we resent less. Practice is a long journey of realization, not an achievement to be recounted. A good practitioner is one who can be peaceful amidst a storm, not because they don't encounter rough seas, but because they know how to keep their mind unshaken. When praised, they are not boastful. When criticized, they are not sad. When someone hurts them, they do not resent. When someone helps them, they are grateful. Such a mind is indeed the Buddha's mind. Ms. Nam later recounted that since understanding the Dharma, she felt her life had become much lighter. Every morning, she sat quietly, reciting the Buddha's name, her heart tranquil. Neighbors came to visit. She made tea and chatted happily. Those who she had scolded in the past now became close friends. They said, "Miss Nam has changed so much." She smiled. "Thanks to the Buddha for helping me see my shortcomings, so I was willing to change." A simple statement that contains the profound spirit of spiritual practice. True practice is not in the form, but in whether the mind is at peace. A person wearing brown robes, reciting scriptures all day, but with a heart full of resentment, is not yet practicing. A person who does not go to the pagoda, but knows how to help others, knows how to be patient, knows how to live with compassion. That is also practice. The Buddha is not in the pagoda. The Buddha is in the heart of one who knows how to love. Those who have not yet practiced often see life as suffering. Those who know how to practice see life as dharma. When suffering comes, they see it as a lesson. When joy comes, they see it as a favorable condition. When loss comes, they see it as an opportunity to let go. Every event is a mirror for them to examine their mind. Because of this, their mind becomes brighter, their heart lighter, and their blessings deeper each day. When we understand this, we will see that practice is not a distant matter. Everyone can start right today. Start with a peaceful breath, with a kind word, with an act of yielding. Little by little, we are practicing, washing away the dust in our minds. The Buddha taught that a virtuous thought is a seed of blessing. An evil thought is a seed of suffering. If each day we nourish a virtuous thought, gradually the tree of the mind will bear the flowers of peace. A person who knows how to practice is one who plants flowers in their heart, so that no matter who comes, no matter what happens, compassion still radiates. And when our mind is at peace, life will be at peace. Not because life changes, but because we look at life with the eyes of understanding. When the mind holds fewer attachments, less anger, less competition, we naturally find happiness. Just like a lake, when it is no longer agitated by waves, its surface will reflect the clear blue sky. Remember the abbot's words to Ms. Nam. Practice is not in the mouth, but in the mind. Only a peaceful mind is true practice. Whoever can maintain such a mind, no matter where they are or what they do, is someone practicing the Dharma, living in the light of the Buddha. Someone once said, "People suffer not because of lack, but because they don't know enough." That saying may sound simple, but if we reflect deeply, we will find a profound truth hidden within it. Everyone in the world seeks happiness. But how few understand that happiness actually lies not in what we have, but in a contented mind. A person who is not content, even if they possess the whole world, will still feel a lack. But a person who is content, even with a simple meal, feels peace in their heart. The Buddha taught, "Those who are content find joy even lying on the ground. Those who are greedy suffer even in heaven." Contentment is the root of peace, the foundation for a mind that thinks less and lives freely in life. Today, we live in an era where material possessions are more abundant than ever before. tall houses, beautiful cars, surplus money. Yet strangely, people are increasingly restless. A wealthy person may own a dozen houses, but still worry about losing one more. A famous person, admired by many, still feels empty because they always think they haven't received enough recognition. Each time our mind gives rise to the thought of not enough, we automatically create an unfillable void. That is why a person who doesn't know when to stop will never find peace. There is a simple yet profound story about Mr. Two, a bread vendor at a small market in a rural area of the South. Every morning, he woke up at dawn, preparing dozens of hot loaves of bread. He placed his old cart at the corner of the market, a gentle smile always on his face. Everyone who passed by liked him for his cheerful and honest nature. A wealthy businessman, the owner of a large company in the area, would stop by Mr. Two's stall every morning to buy bread. Each time, he saw Mr. Two smiling warmly, regardless of whether he sold a little or a lot, whether it was sunny or rainy, always with the same peaceful smile. One day, the businessman couldn't help but ask, "Mr. Two, I see you work so hard, getting up early, toiling all day. But how can you always smile like that? Do you have a secret?" Mr. Two just smiled and slowly replied, "I have enough to eat, enough to live, enough to take care of my wife and children, enough to sleep soundly at night. That is enough. What about you?" The businessman listened in silence. That simple question made him ponder for many days, for he realized that no matter how much money, houses, or possessions he had, he never felt enough. He always thought about the things he didn't have yet, the unfinished projects, the unachieved plans. Meanwhile, Mr. Two, who didn't have much, possessed something he could never buy with money: inner peace. The Buddha once taught that craving is the source of suffering. For when the mind of craving arises, we get caught in a whirlwind of wanting and fearing. Wanting more, fearing to lose what we have. The more we have, the more we worry. The more we worry, the more restless our mind becomes. A person who is not content lives like one who is thirsty in the desert, seeing mirages and mistaking them for reality, running endlessly without reaching anywhere. Meanwhile, a person who is content is like someone standing by a clear well, knowing how to bend down and take cool water, scoop by scoop, drinking just enough to quench their thirst, and then serenely gazing at the sky. That difference lies not in circumstances, but in perception. A person who knows how to practice truly understands that happiness is not bestowed by external conditions, but arises from within the mind. Such a person does not envy, does not compare, does not demand. They are happy to see others at peace. They rejoice when others succeed. They consider each day they can breathe, live, work, and eat a good meal, a great blessing. Conversely, a person who does not practice, even living in luxury, still feels dissatisfied, always looking outward, comparing, complaining, constantly thinking about things that displease them, and thus creating suffering for their own mind. The Buddha taught that if people know contentment, their minds will not be swayed by external circumstances. Contentment is not about not striving, but about knowing enough to stop when necessary, knowing where one's limits are, what is sufficient for oneself. Like a boatman who knows the favorable wind, knows when to put down the oars and rest their hands, rather than trying too hard and capsizing the boat. There are some people who, out of greed for fame and profit, sacrifice their health, time, and family. When they fall ill, when their hair turns gray, when they look back, they finally understand that everything they tried to cling to was ultimately just like passing clouds. Only moments of peace, gentle smiles, and a light heart are the most precious assets. A person who is content will think less, because when the mind is sufficient, there is nothing left to worry about, nothing left to compare. Each morning, they can recite, "I have enough," to remind their heart to return to the present. This short recitation is a miraculous medicine that heals weary souls. When we say, "I have enough," we realize that we are still breathing, still have food to eat, clothes to wear, loved ones, a roof over our heads to shelter from rain and sun. So what else do we lack? Only when we stop to be grateful can we truly feel authentic happiness. But if we keep chasing after distant things, no matter how much effort we put in our whole lives, we will never reach peace. In the Dhammapada, the Buddha taught, "There is no wealth like contentment, no enemy like craving. Craving agitates the mind. Contentment calms the mind." A person can live in a small house, but if their heart is expansive, they still feel warm. A person can drive an old car, wear worn clothes, but if their mind is content, they still feel free. Because happiness is not in material possessions, but in perception. Happiness does not come from how much you have, but from whether you feel you have enough. Nowadays, many people think that happiness lies in having a lot of money, many modern gadgets, a lot of praise, but then, even after achieving them, they still feel empty. Because happiness is not something we accumulate, but something we recognize. Some people spend their entire lives searching for peace, but peace already lies within their own minds. They run everywhere, seeking pagodas, teachers, dharma. But if the mind has not stopped, has not known enough, then even after hearing many dharma talks, it is difficult to find peace. A Zen master once said, "A person who knows enough is not someone who has everything, but someone who doesn't need everything." That saying is a great awakening for today's age. If we can look back and be grateful for every small thing, happiness will naturally come. Waking up in the morning and seeing the sun, hearing birds sing, drinking a warm cup of water. The heart is already joyful enough. In the evening, returning home to gather with loved ones, hearing the laughter of children. That is immeasurable blessing. Don't let your mind think that you need this or that more to be happy. Because the more you think, the more you feel a lack. The more you feel a lack, the more you worry. Thus, our mind gets caught in an endless cycle. Mr. Two, the bread vendor, had nothing but simple joy. Every morning, he recited, "I have enough," as an act of gratitude to life. And thanks to that mind, he lived a long and healthy life, cherished by everyone. The businessman, after that encounter, began to practice letting go. He cut back on unnecessary projects, spent time walking in the morning, had breakfast with his wife, and called his parents to check in. Gradually, he felt a kind of happiness he had never experienced before. Not the happiness of success, but the happiness of peace. The Buddha once taught that knowing enough is to be rich. When the mind is sufficient, life is at peace. When we understand that, we will feel much lighter, no longer influenced by greed, no longer troubled by unachieved things. Each day, we only need to live wholeheartedly, fulfill our duties, be grateful, and be content. Then, no matter how life changes, we will still be at peace. Because happiness is not outside, but right within the mind that knows when to stop. If today the human mind thinks less, compares less, desires less, and just quietly recites, "I have enough," then how much suffering in this world would diminish? Because all suffering arises from the mind of craving. When one knows enough, the mind naturally awakens. When the mind awakens, wisdom arises. When wisdom arises, vexations cease. That is the path to true happiness. The path the Buddha taught over 2,000 years ago, but which still holds its full value today. Let's practice living simply, practicing contentment, so that every breath is a thought of gratitude. Every day is a peaceful day. For when the mind knows enough, the heart will be at peace. And a peaceful heart is the true happiness of human life. There is one thing that almost all of us have experienced: an unsettled mind, even when the body is still. Our hands are doing one thing, but our mind is already thinking about something else. Eating a meal, but the mind is thinking about work. Washing dishes, but irritated by family matters. Sitting next to our children, but our mind is still burdened with worries about the future. This habit of a wandering mind always makes people tired, even if outwardly they lack nothing. The Buddha taught, "Do not pursue the past. Do not crave the future. Just live fully in the present moment." That teaching is like cool water in a hot world, reminding us that true happiness lies right in this moment, not anywhere far away. But people often forget the present to chase after shadows in their minds, then create vexations for themselves. We often think that only when we achieve something can we be happy. When we have a nicer house, when our children grow up, when our job is stable, we will find peace. But when those things come, the mind is busy thinking about other things, because the mind does not stop. Even if circumstances change, suffering remains the same. A person without mindfulness lives like someone walking in a dream, always being pulled by the past and future, forgetting the moment they are living. They often regret what has passed or fear what has not yet come. Their whole life is busy, but they never truly live. The Buddha once asked his disciples, "If a breath goes out and does not return, is that life?" He meant that life truly exists only in this breath, in this moment. Whoever loses it loses their very life. There was a woman named Han. She is a familiar image of many people in society today. Every day she was busy from morning to night. Work at the office, children, husband, cooking, cleaning, all sorts of things to worry about. The more she worried, the more annoyed she felt, especially when she saw her husband and children innocently watching TV while she was spinning around like a top. Every time she washed dishes, she thought of hundreds of things: unfinished work, electricity bills, tuition fees, the hurtful words her husband said. Her hands touched the water, but her mind was elsewhere. That's why even a simple task like washing dishes made her more tired. One day, by chance, she heard a Dharma talk online where the teacher spoke about mindfulness. The teacher said, "When washing dishes, know you are washing dishes. When eating, know you are eating. When breathing, know you are breathing. Mindfulness is returning to the present, and only in the present can you truly touch happiness. That sentence touched her deeply. She tried to apply it. The next day, when washing dishes, she took a deep breath. The warm water touched her hands. She clearly felt each stream of water flowing. Instead of thinking about who was right or wrong, she just observed her breath, watched the soap bubbles rise and then disappear. Strangely, in just a few minutes, her mind suddenly settled. No more annoyance, no more resentment. She was simply washing dishes and found peace in each movement. From then on, she practiced mindfulness in small tasks every day. When eating, she chewed slowly, savoring the sweet taste of each grain of rice. When walking, she knew she was walking, not letting her mind wander. When her children spoke, she truly listened, not checking her phone while listening. Gradually, her mind became lighter, and her family also changed. Her husband saw his wife no longer nagging. Her children saw their mother become gentle, and the atmosphere in the house became warm. And she herself realized that what she had been searching for all this time was not outside, but in her own awakening. The Buddha taught that a person who lives mindfully, even for one day, is more valuable than one who lives 100 years in ignorance. Why? Because a mindful person clearly knows what they are doing, saying, and thinking. They live authentically in every moment, not tormented by the past, not dragged by the future. Every action they do has the presence of the mind. When eating, they are grateful for the food. When breathing, they feel life flowing through their body. Mindfulness is not a distant concept, but a very simple art of living that anyone can practice. Just stop, inhale, exhale, and know you are breathing. That is already mindfulness. However, maintaining mindfulness in everyday life is not easy. The human mind is accustomed to chasing external things. When encountering joy, greed arises. When encountering something disagreeable, anger arises. Thus, the mind is constantly pulled away. To maintain mindfulness, one must know how to return to the breath. Because the breath is the thread connecting body and mind. When the mind is agitated, just stop, take a deep breath, listen to the sound of the exhale, and the mind will settle somewhat, just like a lake ruffled by the wind. Only when the wind stops does the water become clear. The mind is similar. Only when delusions stop can one see oneself clearly. In the Satipatthana Sutta, The Buddha taught 4 fields of mindfulness practice. Mindfulness of the body in the body, mindfulness of feelings in feelings, mindfulness of the mind in the mind, and mindfulness of phenomena in phenomena. This means we observe the body, sensations, mental states, and all phenomena with an awakened attitude, without clinging. When washing dishes, we see our hands moving, feel the water flowing, clearly know that we are washing dishes, not letting our minds think about other things. When a feeling of annoyance arises, we simply look at it like a passing cloud, without hating, without chasing it away, just acknowledging it. When the mind is at peace, wisdom arises. When wisdom is present, we will know how to act skillfully, and thus happiness comes naturally. Someone asked, "Does living in the present mean abandoning the future and not worrying about anything anymore?" No, mindfulness is not giving up, but being awake in every action. When working, we still plan, still think about tomorrow, but we don't let our minds get caught up in fear or ambition. We do our best in the present and then let go of the results, because all results are interdependent conditions. They are not entirely determined by us. Living like this, the mind is light, and tasks still flow smoothly. A Zen master once said, "If you drink tea, but your mind is thinking about something else, you are not truly drinking tea." That saying is very simple, but profound. For if we are not present in that moment, even if the scenery is beautiful and the people are good, we cannot fully experience it. Many people go traveling and take hundreds of pictures, but when they return home, they complain they didn't feel happy. Because when they were there, they were only busy recording, not truly living in the moment. Mindfulness is stopping to fully live each moment like that, so that every task, no matter how small, becomes sacred. Once the mind dwells peacefully in the present, we will clearly see that happiness does not need to be sought. It is always here, right in every breath, every step, every smile. Mindfulness helps us recognize the beauty of life. Even just a dewdrop on a leaf, the sound of rain falling outside, or the sunset at the end of the day. Each small thing, when seen with an awakened mind, becomes a miracle. A mindful person does not need to avoid suffering, because they understand that suffering is also a part of life. And when they look at it with wisdom, that suffering is transformed into understanding. In modern life, we are pulled by too many things: phones, social media, work, information. The mind is constantly dragged, causing us to lose mindfulness. Therefore, let's practice dedicating a few minutes each day to return to the breath, When walking, step slowly and feel your feet touch the ground. When eating, turn off the TV. Just eat and know you are eating. When listening to someone, truly listen, without judging, without interrupting. These seemingly small things are spiritual practice. Practice does not necessarily require going to a pagoda or using bells and wooden fish. It only requires being fully present with what is happening. Miss Han, after a period of practicing mindfulness, completely changed. From someone who was often worried and angry, she became calm and grateful for life. One afternoon, she sat on the porch, watching her children play, listening to the wind blow through the trees. And suddenly, tears fell from her eyes. Not from sadness, but from happiness. She realized that for years she had been searching for peace in distant places, while peace was always right here, in every breath. It was just that her mind had never stopped to see it. From then on, she lived slower, deeper, grateful for every day she lived. The Buddha taught that living in the present is the only path to liberation, because the past is only memory. The future is only imagination. Only the present is real. A person who lives fully in the present is a free person, not bound by regret or fear. When the mind dwells peacefully in the present, vexations disappear, wisdom shines forth. We don't need to change the world. We just need to change the way we look at it. And the world will become more beautiful, lighter, because our own mind is at peace. Therefore, if today you are tired, try to stop. Take a deep breath. Feel the air entering your lungs. Exhale. Let go of all worries. Silently say to yourself, "At this moment, I am breathing. At this moment, I am alive." Just that much, and you have begun mindfulness. And from that moment, you will feel your mind calm, your heart warmer. Even a simple life will suddenly become peaceful and joyful. Because when we live fully in the present, we are truly living, truly happy. Amidst this constantly changing world, have you ever sat alone, quietly, amidst the hustle and bustle of life, and wondered why you are so tired? Why your heart isn't at peace, even though no one is harming you? Some say that suffering does not lie outside, but within our own minds. When the mind is not at peace, even standing in a golden pagoda brings no tranquility. But when the mind is at peace, one can still smile amidst the chaos of the market. That saying is a profound reminder that we humans do not need to run around looking for peace anywhere. Peace comes when we know how to stop, how to look deeply into our own minds, how to reduce superfluous thoughts, unnecessary worries, and how to let go of what is not worth holding on to. People who overthink often create invisible whirlpools for themselves. Each thought is like a thread that gets more tangled the more you try to unravel it. They think about the past and regret. They think about the future and fear. They think about others and compare, envy, forgetting that each time we think too much, the mind becomes more weary. The Buddha once taught, "No one can cause us suffering but ourselves." That saying sounds simple, but it is the truth. A person who cannot master their mind, even living in wealth, will still suffer. A person who knows how to return to their own mind, even eating only simple vegetables, will find life light. Someone asked, "How can the mind find peace?" The answer lies right in every breath, every thought, every word of our daily lives. When we know how to stop for a moment, to listen to ourselves, to let go of what we don't need to grasp, to forgive instead of resenting, then peace will naturally come. Just like a lake, when there is no wind, the water will naturally be still. The human mind is similar. When delusions lessen, wisdom naturally opens, and compassion naturally arises. In the Dhammapada, the Buddha taught, "Keeping the body pure brings great happiness. Keeping speech pure brings great happiness. Keeping the mind pure brings great happiness." When body, speech, and mind are perfectly pure, lotus flowers bloom in the heart. These 4 verses are the essence of spiritual life and a guide for everyone in ordinary life. Many people still think that practicing means going to the pagoda, reciting scriptures, and chanting the Buddha's name. But in truth, practice is when we know how to keep our body from doing evil, keep our words from lying, keep our mind from harboring resentment. That is true practice. Once, a lay Buddhist asked an abbot, "Reverend, how can I find peace?" The abbot just smiled and said, "Think less, cling less, desire less." The person was surprised. "Is that all the teaching?" The abbot replied, "Yes, that's all. But how few can do it." Indeed, humans often want many things, but forget one thing. What we truly need is just a peaceful mind. A person who knows how to let go is not one who loses, but one who gains freedom. When the mind is not bound by hatred, jealousy, fear, or desire, in that very moment, happiness is present. In life, we often hear the saying, "Think less, heart is light. Be patient a lot, life is calm. Letting go is happiness." These 3 things are the 3 keys that open the door to peace. Thinking less is not foolishness, but knowing how to choose what is worth thinking about. Much patience is not weakness, but the strength of one who understands the Dharma. Letting go is not loss, but the wisdom of an awakened person. The wise do not argue. The compassionate do not compete. The virtuous do not resent. When we understand this, we will stop agonizing over small matters. Stop being sad over others' words. Stop suffering over the past and worrying about the future. There is a small story that a teacher once told during a Dharma talk. A man came to complain, "I've tried everything to be happy, but I still can't find peace." The teacher asked, "What are you holding in your hand?" The man replied, "Nothing." The teacher said, "Then you haven't let go yet." The man was surprised. "I'm not holding anything. How can you say, 'I haven't let go'?" The teacher smiled. "You are holding it in your mind. Letting go is not letting go with your hands, but letting go in your heart." That answer made the man burst into tears, because all this time he only knew how to let go externally, but dared not let go internally. We are the same. How many times have we said we let go, but our hearts still cling, still think? We say we forgive, but we still vividly remember every hurtful word. We say we don't need, but we still feel regret when we lose something. The mind is not yet at peace, so life is still suffering. The Buddha once taught, "When the mind is pure, the Buddha realm is pure." This means that life does not become peaceful only when we reach the Buddha realm, but right in this life. If our mind is pure, then this very world is already a pure land. A lay practitioner, if they know how to live mindfully and keep their mind pure, then even while cooking, sweeping the house, or caring for children, they are practicing meditation. Every action, every word, if done with mindfulness, is practice. Living like this, the mind will gradually be at peace. Wisdom will gradually shine, and blessings will gradually increase. No need to search far away. Just each day, knowing how to listen to ourselves, knowing how to love others a little more, be patient a little more, speak kind words a little more. That is already on the path of practice. Someone said, "How can I be at peace in life when I have 100 things to worry about?" But it is precisely in those worries that we can learn how to be at peace. When washing dishes, know you are washing dishes. When going to work, know you are going to work. When eating, know you are eating. That is mindfulness, living fully in every moment, not regretting the past not longing for the future, just doing well what is right before us. Just that much, the mind is lighter, life is at peace. Finally, I would like to offer all practitioners and Dharma friends the verses that the Buddha taught in the Dhammapada as a blessing for everyone on this journey through life. Keeping the body pure brings great happiness. Keeping speech pure brings great happiness. Keeping the mind pure brings great happiness. When body, speech, and mind are perfectly pure, lotus flowers bloom in the heart. Remember that happiness does not come from outside, but from a pure mind within. When the mind thinks less, the heart is less agitated. We will find everything becomes lighter. What once troubled us is now just a passing breeze. What once made us angry is now transformed into a lesson. When the mind is broad enough, everything can be contained. When the mind is bright enough, all darkness dissipates. The less the mind thinks, the more peaceful life will be. That is the path the Buddha taught, the path back to oneself. No need to search far away. Just by looking back at our own mind, nurturing every thought, every word, every action, happiness will bloom right in this life. Live slower, breathe deeper, think less, love more, and remember that when the mind is at peace, life naturally is at peace. There are times in life when we feel like we are walking over a rocky hill, being criticized, misunderstood, hurt. Many of us react with anger, complaint, or a desire to give up. But a person who knows how to practice, a wise person, will stop, take a deep breath, and then smile, saying, "I have learned another lesson in patience." Because patience is not just endurance. Patience is an art, a way for us to transform anger into compassion, to turn adversity into a spiritual path. The Buddha taught, "If they beat you, think they are still kind, because they haven't killed you yet." These words may sound paradoxical, but they contain the vast wisdom of one who has transcended all attachments. When ordinary people are insulted, they react. When criticized, they suffer. When they lose something, they blame heaven and earth. But for a practitioner whose mind is at peace, everything that comes is a lesson to train themselves. Long ago, Venerable Purna was a disciple renowned for his patience and compassion. When he sought permission from the world-honored one to propagate the Dharma in Sunaparanta, a region known for its fierce people, where people were ready to stone, beat, or even kill those with different beliefs. The Buddha asked, "When you go there and they insult you, what will you do?" The Venerable replied, "World-honored one, I will think they are still kind because they only insult me, not beat me." The Buddha asked again, "What if they beat you?" He said, "I will think they are still kind because they only beat me, not kill me." The Buddha continued to ask, "What if they kill you?" He still smiled and replied, "If they kill me, I will also be pleased, because that is my karma, and it is time for me to repay it." The Buddha, hearing this, nodded in praise. "Excellent, Purna. Such patience is worthy of one who propagates the Dharma." That story is not just a eulogy for a venerable monk, but also a lesson for each of us. Patience is not weakness. Patience is the strength of one who understands the Dharma. When people curse us, if we get angry, we lose our peace. But if we smile, understanding that the other person is suffering, veiled by ignorance, then we maintain a peaceful mind, and compassion will spread. Patience has two types: bodily patience and mental patience. Bodily patience is enduring external suffering: heat, cold, hunger, thirst, fatigue, obstacles. Mental patience is enduring internal suffering. When others insult us, when adversity strikes, when waves of emotion rise in our hearts, new practitioners often only know bodily patience, trying to endure while their hearts still boil with resentment. But experienced practitioners who know mental patience maintain a mind as calm as a tranquil lake, no matter what happens. There is a small story about Teacher Min, a young monk who was sent to a remote mountain region to build a hermitage and teach the Dharma to the local people. The region was far away. The people were reclusive, did not understand Buddhism, and even regarded practitioners as strangers. When the teacher had just finished building his hermitage, some people criticized him. "This monk probably came here to beg for alms." Others threw stones and chased him away. Amidst the cold mountains, with the wind blowing through the straw roof of his hermitage, the teacher just smiled, clasped his hands, and made a single bow. The next morning, he still cooked porridge and shared it with the poor. He invited anyone who passed by to eat. To those who cursed him, he only replied, "Nam mo a di da fat." Year after year, Teacher Min remained patient. One day, a great storm raged. Rain lashed down, and many houses collapsed. The teacher opened the hermitage door and invited the villagers to take shelter. They stayed there, received porridge, and listened to the teacher's peaceful chanting. After the storm, the villagers came to apologize and gradually helped him rebuild the pagoda. Not long after, That small pagoda became a place where everyone sought tranquility. The elderly came to chant. Children came to learn to read. Everyone said Teacher Min was too gentle, too enduring. But he just smiled and said, "It's not endurance, it's love. When you can love, you stop being angry. That is patience in Buddhism. Patience is not looking away. It is transforming with compassion. Those who do not understand the Dharma think patience is weakness. Those who understand the Dharma know patience is victory. Victory not over others, but over oneself. The Buddha once taught in the Dhammapada, though one may conquer 1,000 times 1,000 men in battle, yet he is the greatest of conquerors who conquers himself. A person who can be patient in the face of insult is one who has conquered their ego, extinguished the fire of anger. Anger is a fire that burns down merit, consumes blessings, causing us to wander in suffering. A minute of anger can destroy many years of practice. Therefore, patience is not just a virtue, but the foundation of wisdom and compassion. Patience in life also needs to be practiced every day. When a loved one says harsh words, we are patient not to cause harm. When work is stalled, we are patient to find a new direction. When we encounter something disagreeable, we are patient so that our minds do not become agitated. Such patience is not suppression, but understanding. Patience helps us see impermanence, knowing that everything will pass, like the wind blowing over a hill, like clouds drifting across mountains. A patient person no longer resents anyone, because they understand that everything happens due to conditions. The person who curses us today may have been cursed by us in the past. The person who harms us may be someone we once hurt. Understanding karma. In this way, we will feel light-hearted. We no longer need to seek revenge, no longer need to justify ourselves, because everything has its reason. When we think less, argue less, suffer less from others' words, that is when we are practicing patience. The more patient one is, the calmer the mind. The calmer the mind, the brighter the wisdom. When wisdom is bright, we are no longer caught in the whirlpool of anger and vexation. Someone asked, "Reverend, I've been patient for a long time, but others still cause me suffering. What then?" The teacher replied, "Patience is not to change others, but to change yourself. When you are truly at peace, others will naturally change. Just like water, when still, it reflects the moon. The mind is similar. When calm, it clearly sees the truth. Ultimately, These steps are the beginning of liberation. For when we no longer suffer because of others, we are free. When we are no longer moved by insults, we have touched true happiness. That is happiness that does not depend on external conditions, but comes from a calm inner state. A person who knows patience, even amidst the noisy world, can still smile. A person who knows patience, even when facing adversity, can still maintain a peaceful heart. Like a lotus growing out of mud, its fragrance remains sweet. Like a lamp in the wind, its light still shines brightly. And just like Teacher Min, amidst much criticism, he remained compassionate, patient, still cooked porridge, still chanted. Patience does not make us lose out. Patience only makes us greater, makes our hearts more generous, and makes the world around us softer. Therefore, in life, when you encounter something disagreeable, please do not react hastily. Stop for a moment. Take a deep breath. Recite Nam Mo Adida Fat. And then ask yourself, can I be loving? If you can be loving, you will not suffer. If you can be patient, you will be at peace. And if you can maintain such a mind, wherever you are practicing the Dharma. As the Buddha taught, the one who knows patience is the one who liberates themselves from suffering. No need to go far, no need to seek the Dharma anywhere. Just by returning to the breath, keeping the mind calm, living virtuously, speaking kind words, doing good deeds. That is practice. I wish to send a few words to all practitioners and Dharma friends. Human life is impermanent. Conditions come together and then dissolve. But each time we can be patient, our mind grows. When the mind is at peace, blessings naturally come. When compassion fills the heart, suffering naturally dissipates. Let's practice patience, starting today, in every word, in every thought, in every small action. For once the mind is patient, this life will become light as the wind, free as the clouds. There is a fit in the human heart that everyone has known, seen, and allowed to flare up, consuming so many good things. That fire is called anger. Anger not only causes people to lose their composure for a moment, but can also devastate a person's entire life. An uncontrolled word, a glance filled with rage, an action in a fit of anger, all can become a knife piercing the very people we love. Someone once said that anger is the greatest enemy of wisdom. The Buddha taught that a single outburst of anger burns down a whole forest of merit. Because merit is accumulated through countless days of practicing good deeds, upholding precepts, and performing acts of blessing. But just one moment of anger, one impulsive action, can destroy everything we have painstakingly built. The mind of anger is a fire. Once it flares up, wisdom is obscured, compassion is buried, and happiness also drifts away. In life, each of us has been angry. Sometimes it's because someone said something wrong or did something wrong. Sometimes it's because we feel hurt or disrespected. Sometimes it's because our go attachment is too strong. We always think we are right, we are superior, we deserve respect. And then, when someone touches that ego, we immediately react. Anger flares up, harsh words are uttered, and evil karma follows. But have we ever considered that when we get angry, we don't hurt others as much as we hurt ourselves? When anger arises, breathing becomes rapid. The heart races. Hot blood rushes up. The face changes color. The body is affected. The mind is chaotic. Saying wrong words, doing wrong things, and then regretting it. Sometimes the price to pay is a broken relationship, a shattered family, or even a lifetime of torment. The story of Mr. How is an example. He was originally a diligent man who loved his wife and children, but he had a bad temper. In his heart, anything that displeased him made him uncomfortable. One day, simply because his wife happened to cook rice differently, he became angry. Words were exchanged, anger surged, and he raised his hand and slapped his wife. The sound of the slap resonated, but more painful was the sound of his child sobbing in the corner of the house. His wife hugged their child and left for her mother's house. The house became strangely empty. Day after day, Mr. How sat in that house, eating cold rice, looking at the bowl his wife used to wash, hearing the wind blow through the eaves, and his heart ached. When angry, he felt he was right, but when quiet, he felt his heart was empty. One day, passing by a pagoda, he heard a Dharma talk. A single outburst of anger burns down a whole forest of merit. That sentence pierced his heart like a knife. He stood stunned, tears falling. It turned out that because of a single fit of anger, he had lost everything. After the Dharma talk, he sought out the abbot, knelt down, and said through tears, "Reverend, I have caused suffering to my wife and child. I deeply regret it. What should I do to mend it?" The abbot looked at him kindly and said slowly, "My child, anger is ignorance. It is not seeing the truth. When you are angry, you are burning away your own blessings. Learn to stop. When angry, just take a deep breath. Exhale slowly. Be silent and recite Amitabha Buddha. The anger will dissipate, and the mind will be at peace." From that day on, Mr. Hao practiced as the abbot taught. Each time he felt his heart flare up, he clenched his fists, took a deep breath, and recited Nam Mo A Di Da Fat. At first, it was very difficult. Sometimes he had to go outside and walk far away to avoid losing his temper. But gradually, he noticed a change in himself. Each breath was a time anger was soothed. Each recitation was a lamp lit in the darkness. After half a year, he went to apologize to his wife sincerely, without making excuses. His wife silently looked at his earnest eyes, and then tears fell. The family reunited, and happiness returned. The Buddha taught that an angry person is like one who stabs themselves with a poisoned dagger, for when we are angry with someone, we think we are harming them. But in reality, we are harming ourselves. We allow our minds to be hurt. We allow our bodies to suffer. Anger is like a fire in a house. If we don't extinguish it early, it will spread and burn away all peace. And when peace is lost, we will have nothing left to rely on. In the Dhammapada, the Buddha taught, hatred ceases not by hatred, but by love. This is an eternal law. This means that if someone harms us and we respond with anger, we only perpetuate suffering. But if we know how to remain calm, to look with a compassionate heart, we can break that vicious cycle. Anger only ceases when we no longer nourish it. Someone said, I also want to be less angry, but it's so difficult. In truth, it's difficult because we still think we are right. We haven't yet seen that the root of anger is ego attachment. When the ego is strong, anything disagreeable becomes a reason to get angry. But when we see that all things are impermanent, that everyone has their own karma and suffering, anger no longer has a place to sprout. When we understand, we will feel compassion. When we feel compassion, we can no longer be angry. True practitioners of the Dharma base their practice on patience and compassion. It's not that they don't encounter disagreeable things, but they know how to smile, how to look, with the eyes of wisdom. When cursed, they think, this person is suffering. That's why they speak this way. When criticized, they tell themselves, these words are an opportunity for me to examine myself. For those of us in the ordinary world who have not yet reached such a level of practice, we can start with the smallest things. When angry, take a deep breath. When uncomfortable, exhale slowly. When insulted, remain silent. And always remember to recite a Buddha's name. Each time we stop before an outburst of anger, we sow a good seed in our mind. Gradually, that seed will grow into a forest of peace. But if we let anger control us, we will live forever in suffering. Some people harbor resentment their entire lives, unable to let go even on their deathbed. They do not know that it is that very anger that drags them through samsara, deepening their karmic obstacles. In a Dharma talk, a lay practitioner asked the Buddha, "World-honored one, where can an angry person be reborn?" The Buddha replied, "One who is very angry will be reborn in hell, where the fire burns ceaselessly. Because anger is fire. An angry mind attracts fire." Those words sound terrifying, but they are true. We don't need to wait until death. Right now, when we are angry, we are already in hell. Each fit of anger is a flame that burns us, causing us to live in pain, turmoil, and restlessness. Therefore, the Buddha taught that a practitioner is one who knows how to extinguish anger, not by suppressing it, but by understanding and contemplating it. When we see that anger is suffering, that it is useless, it naturally dissipates, just as when we see fire is hot, we dare not touch it. When we see anger is dangerous, we will naturally stop. There are people who spend their entire lives studying the Dharma, listening to teachings, and reciting scriptures. But if anyone touches their fame or profit, they get angry. At such a time, even reciting 1,000 volumes of scriptures is useless, because the mind has not truly practiced the Buddha's words. True practice is not about speaking well, but about being able to stop a single thought of anger. When stopped, the mind is as bright as a mirror, the heart as light as a cloud. If we pay attention, we will see that anger only lasts a few minutes, but its consequences can last a lifetime. A word spoken in anger can cause someone pain for months and years. An action in anger can make us lose everything. Therefore, let's learn to guard the mind like guarding a lamp in the wind. When the wind blows, shield it with your breath. When the fire flares, temporarily step away. That is how to save oneself. Everyone gets angry sometimes in life, but what's important is whether we know how to return. Just like Mr. Howe, when he realized his mistake, he knew how to repent, how to mend, and happiness returned. No one is born perfect, but a person who knows how to look back, how to apologize, how to learn from mistakes, is a person on the path to enlightenment. Less anger naturally brightens the mind. More patience naturally increases blessings. More compassion naturally ends suffering. It all begins with a peaceful breath. Inhale, knowing you are angry. Exhale, knowing you are letting go. Just that much is practice. May all practitioners remember that a moment of anger leads to a lifetime of regret. Maintaining a peaceful mind preserves happiness. When angry, remember the Buddha's teaching. A single outburst of anger burns down a whole forest of merit. Take a deep breath. Exhale slowly. Be silent. And recite the Buddha's name. When the mind is at peace, all things turn wholesome. When the heart awakens, all suffering dissipates. And when the light of compassion is lit, the darkness of hatred will naturally disappear.